Hi everybody, Jeremy here, Modern Vitality. In today's video, we're doing a walk and talk, and I've got an outstanding question from one of our members, and it has to do with success problems. Meaning, right? What's a success problem? Well, it's when you get what you want, right? When you get your goal. So for our context, we're talking about complex chronic health conditions, right? So in this case, mold exposure, and all the kind of ravaging health effects, and then wanting to heal that. And then going through a process over the course of months and years, right? Structured stage 1, 2, 3, 4. You know the drill, right? You know how we operate here. She's been through this process and now she's feeling better. She's got her life back. And now she has a new set of problems coming up because she reached her goal, right? And now there are new problems, new challenges to overcome. And this is something that I think is really important to recognize, especially for practitioners. You know, there are some practitioners that I'm mentoring, and this is one of the things where I try to make sure that they're aware of this, because our patients, as they move through a healing process, are going to learn that they have success problems. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at that. And before we get started, I should say my voice may sound a little more scruffy and rough today. I'm coming over a bit of a head cold. One of my kids brought home some runny nose action, and it got passed around the whole family. So, you know, if you hear me, I'm a little more gruff, and, you know, if I have to cough or something, I'll probably edit it out so you don't have to hear all that. But, you know, don't worry, I'm on the mend. So, and I like getting sick, by the way, which I'll talk about in another video. I think I'm going to film that right after this one, because it's very important, especially for health practitioners, to kind of get an empathy reset, right? It's very important. So here's our question for today's video, and I'm going to just read it here. I do have a question that I hope you can do a vault post or an update on. After a deep conversation with my teen last night, I learned that every conversation I have in person or over the phone, I push the direction of conversation towards health, and it's annoying everyone. Oops, right? I've learned so much here, and I tend to try to educate everyone I talk to too much. What is wrong with me? I need to get over myself and not come off so holier than thou just because of what I've been through. Just trying to save everyone else from suffering. My head knows that they all have their own journeys and can make their own choices, but my heart and love to help overrides. How can I exhale these past health traumas and healing and not carry them around with me, becoming the one thing I want to talk about? This is tremendous. Okay, so here's what's happening. There is a healing journey, and this is something that I've spoken about in other videos, and I've mapped it, right? And the reason why I've mapped the healing journey is because I don't like vagaries, right? I don't like hiding behind vague terms. And there are other words I've talked about before in other videos. I'm not going to get into all this here, but things like detox, right? Healing crisis, healing reaction, all these things, even sometimes Herxheimer, right? Practitioners can kind of hide behind this stuff. And healing journey, right? This is another one. It's vague, right? Oh, there's a hole there. It's vague. And a healing journey is one of these things where you can kind of start to default and cop out some of the failures you're having, right? Just, oh, it's just part of the healing journey, right? Well, there's a reality to this, that it's true, right? There is a healing journey, and there are ups and downs. And just like I say, healing's not linear, right? It has dips and all that, but you need to be able to understand those dips, right? And predict and prevent them. And when they do happen, know how to navigate back out of them. And that's a wild difference between actually getting better and staying better and just kind of brushing things off to, some vagary. Oh, it's a healing journey, right? Even the healing is nonlinear, right? That you could use that. If you don't know what that means, you could use that to kind of brush anything off. Obviously, I don't. I've imbued that with very specific meaning, right? Healing's nonlinear, meaning you might go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 1, right? But just because you're zigzagging around doesn't mean we're lost, right? You want to always have a compass with that and understand what's going on. So the healing journey is another one of these phrases, and I have a lot of empathy here, and I know what it feels like to be stuck. Okay, I know what it feels like to be frustrated. I know what it feels like to kind of be spinning your wheels, and when you start thinking, okay, it's the healing journey here, I'm just, scrambling around on my process. I'm not here to pass judgment, and I'm not saying that people that use this term vaguely are somehow bad people, right? But what I am here to do is elevate our understanding. So when we talk about the healing journey, there are distinct stages. Just like there's a healing process, right? Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That I'm always talking about constantly. I don't want you to get confused here. That's not necessarily the healing journey, because there are other distinct stages before you even get to that. It's very important to understand this. And there are beliefs that go along with each one of these stages that will either keep you there right? So that you can't get past to the next one, or they will, if you can overcome some of these beliefs, this is why they call limiting beliefs. But again, I'm not being vague about this. I'm very specific. You can see my other videos about the healing journey, right? Where I'm not going to break all this down right now. But what I will say is that ultimately the healing journey is you're following a very strong personal development arc. And it just so happens to be about healing, right? That's just the veneer of it. And what's going on under the surface is a subconscious evolution of what kind of person you are underneath, what kind of human you are underneath. And I don't mean to make this sound super intense, right? But in my work, I would be silly not to have noticed these patterns and to not start sharing some of this so that you know what's in front of you, right? You want to know what's next and what's around the next bend as you start to get better. This goes way beyond symptom whack-a-mole, right? Oh, I've got headaches. How do I get rid of headaches, right? How do I help with brain fog from Lyme disease or something like that? Those are good questions, valid questions. But in reality, long term, if you're going to go through a transformative process of overhauling your entire body system, right, including the way you think and how you show up in the world, there is a lot of growth to be had. And I don't mean to scare you off, right? I've had plenty of people come through, even within my programs, and they can get better and get their life back without having to become a magic yogi on a mountain, right? That's totally enlightened and all that. That's not what we're not pushing for perfection. At the same time, though, we have to understand that there is a human inside that craves growth and development. And we will use this opportunity. It just so happens that we're talking about healing and overcoming, fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome or mold exposure or Lyme disease or whatever it is, right? But that's a vehicle for transformation. That's a vehicle for growth. And I know if you have a lot of symptoms and your quality of life is down and your world is shrinking, that it doesn't seem like a gift or a blessing to be going through this, right? And on the other side of that, you have to go through it, right? The way out is through. You have to go through it. And once you're on the other side of that, oftentimes people do see that. They go, holy smokes, I've learned so much. I remember one lady, she went through the program. We did all the stages. She got her life back. It was wild. She went from, she transformed amazing, even to where she was starting to rekindle some of her more romantic side with her husband, right? All of a sudden the libido was engaged again. She was kind of going back to parts of her life that had just been turned off due to illness. And I remember she said, this has been the most transformative year of my life, and she was in her 60s, right? So people who get that, people who understand that your symptoms are emergent, they are a byproduct of underlying causes that are internal, and it's not always in your head, right? That's the other trap, right? But if you can get that, if you can understand that, you've got a very beautiful and transformative path ahead of you. Right? So when we have this healing journey, one of the points in the healing journey is when the symptoms are down significantly, right? And you get your life back. And this is where we try to go to. And for some people, that's the end of the ride, right? They go through a process, they go through a program. Hey, I did it. I did all the stages, right? I've done the zigging and the zagging, and I know how to handle what comes, right? So for example, I'll pull it up here. Earlier in her post, her question is introduced, right? She says, I have turned the corner. I feel like I made it past the final switchback ascending up the mountain. I've had 7 consecutive unstoppable days, right? Unstoppable. And I feel so close to being able to confidently say I am healthy and don't have complex chronic health conditions, right? This is great. So this is where some people get off the ride, right? We got you to the destination, the original destination, right? I want these symptoms gone. I don't want to feel sick. Cool. Well, there's also a thing that happens at that point where now some people, not everybody, but some people will then have that experience built up of what they've been through, right? How much they've suffered, basically, and what they've learned along the way. And when you get on the other side, it's normal to want to share that with other people, especially people suffering with the problems you used to have. It's normal. It's healthy, right? You're moving, in terms of archetypes, you're moving from a hero's journey where you're the hero, going along the journey, trying to figure out and solve your problem, right? And maybe you've got a mentor, right? A guide, somebody that knows the way and has helped other people with this or whatever it is, right? You've got somebody kind of helping you along, and you get to a certain point, and now your next stage of evolution is to become the guide for others. This is normal. This is in your subconscious, right? You go from being Frodo to becoming Gandalf, right? You go from being Luke Skywalker to becoming Yoda. Okay, you take a more evolved role. And that's why even within our group, right? Which is where these questions come from. When I share these walk and talks, that's what's going. I'm not just making these up out of thin air. These are real questions from real people that are going through real transformation, in real time in our group. So when you're in the group, you have opportunities there to interact. And what I find really interesting is that people at varying stages of healing will start to become voices within our group. They'll start to take on more leadership roles. They'll start to take other people that are coming in under their wing a little bit. This is normal, this is healthy, and this is actually practice. This is your next step, is to start to become more and more helpful to others. It's service, right? Now, what gets really interesting, and this is not I don't want to be negative here, but this is a phenomenon I've noticed and I've experienced. And again, you don't have to be perfect, right? But what can happen sometimes with this healing journey, and I've spoken about this in other videos, but what can happen sometimes with this healing journey is that people start to take on the mentor role before they've really even solved their own problem, right? And we see this, sometimes you'll see it in a support group or wherever, and you've got somebody who's an advocate for a disease, and they're still suffering, they're still struggling with it, which is not their fault, right? It's not their fault, but they put themselves in a position to try to help and serve other people when they haven't really got their head around their own problem just yet. They need help, right? Most times people in that situation, they haven't found something like what we do, right? They don't understand this process, which is okay. It's not their fault. This is a relatively new thing that I'm bringing out into the world here, right? To have a stage-by-stage process that iterates and follows you as you heal and change, right? But people can get stuck. Why this is unfortunate is because people who put themselves in this kind of role where they're here to like help others and serve, which is noble and beneficial, but they haven't helped themselves yet, right? They put themselves in a role and then their identity gets crystallized around that, unfortunately. And also it can be very frustrating because people come to them for help since they're in a helping position, but they don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. So that's one of the pathological ways. That's one of the kind of twisted ways that this desire to help gets expressed, because really first you got to solve it, right? You might need help to solve it. And once you've solved it, or you're in the process of solving it and you've got things under control and you don't identify as being sick anymore, which is fantastic, right? Then the next thing that happens as part of our development is the desire to bring other people up. This is healthy, right? These are the types of people that I look for my group. I'm looking for people that have values that are high in kindness and consideration. It's important, right? That it's not just misery and, hungry ghosts and all that coming in. So I filter pretty hard for the people that I let in the group because I want to create and nurture an environment where there's more and more and more of this. So you may find, to the question here, you may find that the desire, right? Especially, here's the thing. When you've had a very significant problem and then you've learned how to overcome it, right? And even if it's been a long process, but you've learned, you can now condense your experience into what's called wisdom, right? And you want to take that dense experience and that dense wisdom and you want to transmit it to other people to save them the suffering, right? To save them the time and the trouble, especially, right? In this case, she's talking about her teen daughter. Of course, who doesn't want to help their kids? We always want to help our kids not have the same problems we had. We always want to give our kids an advantage, but also at the same time, they have to be ready for it. So what I would say here is that sometimes it's environmental, right? You can lead a horse to water, can't make them drink, that kind of thing. You want to be around horses that want to drink, right? You want to be around people who are proactively working on their health. And what gets really interesting is we have a few kind of effects here, because one of them is the more you push it, sometimes people will resist more, right? Which is a sad irony. It's a paradox, right? Because the people around us in your life, your family members or whoever else, the more you harp on this, like it's all about health, you got to have the stages, like all the things you've learned, sometimes what happens is they dig in harder and they resist it more, right? So actually it's better to just kind of wait. I know it's difficult, it's not easy, right? But if you're not in the right context where people are actually asking you for help, it's better to wait, right? And spend your energy in an environment where people are actually interested in this, right? Where people are being proactive and having these kinds of conversations, and where your wisdom and your opinion and your experience is valuable and valued and listened to and acknowledged, and you're not wasting your breath, right? If you spend a minute and type up an answer to somebody in a chat group to help them along the way when you're a little further along the path, right? That's the kind of environment, and those are the kind of people who will take that advice, that wisdom, and it'll help them. They'll use it, right? Now, the other thing you're up against here, because this is a big one, is invisibility by familiarity. Okay, invisibility by familiarity. This one's a heartbreaker. So what happens, and we're all subject to this, right? None of us are immune to this, but there's this kind of process where we tend to assume the people close to us don't know a lot. Okay, and it's because we put contextual filters on other people, right? All the time we're kind of labeling other people and categorizing them, and it's just something that humans do. So, for example, right, if you think about music, right, a band, there's a local band, right? Oh, the local band is here. They're playing, they play every Friday at the tavern or whatever, the local band. And then there's like an international band from very far away that's touring, and they're doing amphitheaters, right? So maybe it's, I don't know, U2 or something, right? They're coming around, very well known, international. They came from far away. They must be great, right? That's the assumption you have, okay? Regardless of how you feel about U2, right? So I just picked them randomly. And then there's the local band of, I don't know, Smoky Bones Blues Band or whatever it is, and which I just made that up. If that band really exists, I'm sorry, it's a coincidence, right? But you got, local Smoky Bones Blues Band is playing at the tavern in your town, every Saturday, right? And you assume, right, oh, because they're local, they're probably not that good. Okay, that's the same kind of thing that happens, right? Because as we get good, right, then we start to naturally generate a wider audience. Okay, this is a whole different topic, but basically that's the assumption we tend to have. The local people close to us probably aren't that good because they're local. It's a really weird little cognitive trick, and it's not accurate. It's a fallacy, but just know that you are subject to it as well as all your friends and family, right? So you will get what's called invisibility by familiarity, meaning they know you, they see you every day, right? So therefore, whatever you say, they already know what you think. They don't have to listen to you. You don't have anything new to say to them, right? That's some of the subconscious filtering and belief that happens there. This is one of these things that health professionals get this a lot too. This is one of the reasons why they say don't treat family, right? Don't take on your family as your patients for health practitioners, because, for example, right? I go off to school to study Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, right? At age, 22 or something. I was young, or I was a little puppy when I went off to go learn about these things. So my mother, my father, my sister, right, my family, they've known me under a certain context, right? Which up until that point in my life was, unevolved, I guess would be the word, right? Immature, there weren't too many values I really had at that point. I was still figuring myself out. And I don't think I was malicious or anything, but I sure wasn't leadership material at that point, right, in my development. So that's how they know me, That's how they know me. And then I go away and I learn all these things. And I learn about health, and I learn about how to help people get their energy back, and how to get people sleeping better, and all these things, right? How to get inflammation down. And when I come back, right, I return. I'm so excited to share and to spout all this condensed knowledge and wisdom that I've gained, right? But in my family's mind, I'm still that, 19-year-old with dreadlocks sleeping in until noon every day, because he was out drinking or whatever else the night before, So there's a little bit of a drag over where the people close to you have to update their sense of who you are, right? And it takes some time for people to let you be new in their mind. And so they appreciate what it is you have to say. Because when they look at you, they still see you as however they used to see you, no matter how much you've changed. It's really quite interesting. So most of the human transformational rites of passage, and I've spoken about this in other videos, most of the human transformational rites of passage have to do with a separation, a transformation, and then an integration, right? And what that looks like is, for example, going off to college, right? This is a tradition that I think is dying out. Colleges are becoming less and less relevant, especially with the games they're playing with tuition and economics and things. So anyway, I'm not going to get into that rabbit hole in this video. But when you have, like I described, here goes the separation, right? The young person goes off, they go away to go learn things. In the process of learning, they're transformed, they become a new person. And then there's usually some kind of reintegration ritual that happens where they're recognized now as a new person. Maybe they have a new title, right? I got a bunch of initials and letters after my name. Who cares about that stuff? But it's symbolic, right? It represents a transformation that has happened. And if people have a hard time because we don't have our culture our culture doesn't have like set rituals on this stuff. And it's difficult for the subconscious of your friends and family to see you as a transformed person, especially if you don't have like new credentials or a new diploma or whatever new symbol of the new you, right? Another one, so, I talk about this a lot. You can see this in other videos, but another one would be marriage. Okay, these two people are going to go through this process and they separate from the crowd, right? They go up there with typically it's a priest or somebody like that who's the agent of transformation. They separate, they do the transformation, right? Do you take this, woman? Yes, I do. Okay, great. I now pronounce you man and wife, right? I now acknowledge your transformation. Then they get a ring, right? And oftentimes, somebody gets a new last name. There's this signifier, right? And everybody around, as you go back and reintegrate with your friends and family, and they're all hugging you and congratulations, and they're acknowledging this new form, right? And in that case, it'd be a relationship or a marriage. So do we have this for healing? I had mold illness. I was sick for a long time. My world shrank, right? I was bedbound, inflamed, exhausted. I was not my best self. I went through a process, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You know what it is. I went through a process. Now I'm transformed. I feel better. There's no new name, right? There's no new credential. There's no ring or whatever. It's like, what should we do? Should I send a special hat? Hey, you made it through. You're healed, and you can wear this hat around and then everybody knows. It's not going to happen, right? So we fall subject to this invisibility by familiarity thing. And all I can tell you on that is to be patient, right? To be very patient, because you cannot expect people to come around and catch up when you've had a head start. You've had a head start transforming yourself, and you've been doing these things, whether you know it or not, internally. So you can't expect your family to catch up as fast as you've changed. It's going to take them a while. And then the other variables are, do they want to hear about, what you have to say about their health? Are they receptive? Or are they still having invisibility by familiarity, right? So I would say at this point, one of the things to be aware of is when you've gotten to where you want to get, right? You've got your success. There's usually a new set of challenges and success problems at that point. And this is one of them. These success problems are fantastic problems to have. These are great problems to have. Enjoy them, enjoy solving them, enjoy working them out, right? And one of the things is going to be patience. Just like you were patient with yourself, you have to be patient with the people around you. And the other thing is going to be context. Put yourself in an environment where your contributions are valued. Then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about wasting your breath. All right, so there we have success problems. There are many more success problems that come with healing. This is one of them, right? Part of my job, as I see it, is to know that path. And the parts that I don't already know, I sure am paying attention, right? Because then the next person and the next person and the next person I work with, I start to see pattern after pattern. And we can prepare, for this, right? Here's another success problem, real quick. As I go through stage 1, my immune system gets better, I'm cleaner, and guess what else? My boundaries start to change and get stronger. And now I've got to deal with my relationships. Now I've got to learn how to speak in a very clean way. Okay, it's a new challenge, right? So I have ways already built, like into my program. We've got special sections that are all about success problems, right? How do you assert your boundaries without isolating yourself? How do you assert your boundaries and clean up your relationships without the fear of loss? Okay, that's pretty scary. There's a lot of stuff like that, a lot of success problems. So if you're dealing with a complex chronic health condition, no matter where you are on the healing journey, right, which is not a vague term, I've got it mapped, okay? You look at it like you are here, right? Figure out where you are in that. Again, it's in a separate video. No matter where you are in that journey, you may want company. You may want to be in a culture that's conducive to healing. You may want to be in an environment where you can ask me anything you want, right, day or night in a chat group, and I'll get back to you with my perspective right away, right? So we have Modern Vitality Solutions and Support. I've mentioned it before. You've probably heard about it. If you're familiar with my work, I do everything in there. That's where I keep everybody that I'm working with all around the world, right? We stay in the one group together. So people who are considering working with me, or they, I want to hire you. Can I have consultations on my case or something? Just get in the group. Get in the group. It's free, right? It's totally free. You can join as a guest. I'm going to check your application, right? I'm going to check your application out. But if your application looks great and you look like you're going to be a good fit for what we do and, the culture of the group, then I'll get you in as soon as I can. And that's your opportunity to come kind of check out what we do, right? Because my programs are not cheap, absolutely. I value my attention, I value my time, I value the quality of my work and the results we get, I value the long-term relationships I have. But why not come and test me out, right? Check me out. Take some time at no cost. So that's what our group is for. We also have a vault full of interactive videos that'll help you a lot with getting your bearings and making yourself a plan. And again, there's a lovely and vibrant community, lots of positive people. Who knows, maybe you'll ask some questions in there that'll wind up becoming videos like this. All right, so I hope this helps you, and boy, let's get you feeling better. Cheers.